Hey guys, welcome back to the What's the Word podcast.
Yes,
with
sir.
your host, Lalo and Brian.
Brian.
So, what's the word, bro? What was the word that I sent to the group chat this time?
So for this session, we were thinking of the word pride.
Pride.
What's the word? Pride.
Pride.
Pride as in like
Ego.
ego.
Possibly even narcissistic, which hopefully it doesn't go that
Yeah.
way, honestly.
Hopefully not.
But
yeah,
but I think we all struggle with pride a little bit. I think we all have an ego. And,
definitely.
Do you have an ego, bro?
Of course. I mean, I
Do
think
you?
we all
I
have
think
an
we all
ego.
have an ego,
We all have a
honestly.
form, a sort. I think it's something that we develop. Each person, depending on their temperament,
Definitely.
it affects them differently.
Yeah.
I'm more, you guys always say I'm not, but I've always been a little bit more introvert. I like to be more on my own. So
Definitely.
my form of pride isn't about being all up and about,
Mhm.
or like showing it. It's
Yeah.
more of like a personal thing, which is sometimes more dangerous
Mhm.
and difficult to discover.
Mm.
But yeah, bro.
No, I think I do too. You know, I think and we were talking about this earlier. I
Right.
don't like being corrected.
Yeah, you
I
mentioned
don't
that.
like being corrected. Like I had this little issue the other day with one of my GMs at the store I work at, and it's just like a small recommendation, you know, of what we could do better. Didn't like the recommendation at all. So I
Didn't
was
like
like,
it?
oh, you know what? I'll just stay quiet. But
Okay.
I'm not gonna lie. He's like I think there's like certain people in your life that you just crash with, and it's because of pride, essentially.
Yeah.
You know, but I look at Jesus. I look at various stories within the Bible that we see pride in. I see, for example, in the Old Testament, I think about David and Samuel. No, not David and Samuel. Saul.
David and Saul.
Yeah, I confused them. Samuel was the good guy, if anything.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, for most of it.
For most of it.
He wasn't that good of a father, though. But it's okay.
Samuel?
Yeah, Samuel happened the same thing as his leader,
Really?
Eli.
Oh.
The same thing happened to his kids. They were corrupted and they died.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay, but you know what? You learn something new every day.
And
don't you?
and they embedded that in David too,
Huh.
and
Yeah.
Solomon, and it kept going.
Hmm.
Curiously.
Curiously. But anywho, I think about David and Saul.
Mhm.
When David is, about to go back to, well, he's gonna be king essentially.
Mhm.
He was the
Yeah,
chosen
yeah.
one over Saul. God wanted David over Saul. I think about in the New Testament with the Jewish Christians and the Gentiles,
Oh yeah.
which is another big one, and
Mhm.
Paul talks about it a lot in Romans and
Okay.
Galatians. And I think some people view the people within the church very proud of themselves
Yeah. Sometimes.
sometimes,
that
but
happens too.
I definitely struggle with pride, and I think it's guys. Maybe it's, I don't know. Maybe it's a more of a guy thing, but I think we all do essentially.
Yeah.
We all do essentially.
Dude, with guys, especially when there's some physical aspect involved. I know you've had an experience. You've gone to like a men's type retreat
Mm-hmm.
where I overheard that they would do like this one event.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was at the end of everything when everyone was tired,
Yeah,
and they made them like show up their strength. Like, oh, who's the strongest guy?
yeah.
It was like a wrestling type thing,
Oh yeah,
Right?
That was crazy.
and
yeah.
it was like they all recovered energy out of nowhere.
Mhm.
And I think part of it
It has to
is
do with
pride.
Yep.
Part of it is pride. It's like I'm not gonna lose physically
Oh, no,
to him,
definitely.
and it's like everyone's looking at me.
No.
Or like I don't know
Definitely.
if that ever happened to you. I remember what happened to me when I was in like school.
Mhm.
I would be like, oh, there's no way he's gonna beat me in a mile.
No.
Like so I gotta push, right?
Yeah.
And I would try harder for what? And then no one else was looking at me. I thought they were, but
Yeah.
yeah,
I
dude,
mean,
pride's a big thing.
I think it's essentially it's not a bad thing to be proud of yourself. I
Mhm.
think it's bad when I think it starts to overtake more so starts to overshadow the love that you may have for a person. For example,
Mm.
I think you're the one who told me one time that love should be, if anything, I prefer to lose a conversation or lose a debate in order to win a person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know if you told me that, but I
Yeah.
heard that
It's a-
recently somewhere else.
It's a phrase in Spanish that I've heard.
Spanish, yeah.
Vale más amar que
Mhm.
tener la razón.
Oh yeah,
It's worth it more to love a person
and I
than
think
to
that's what Jesus is
beat
calling
them
us
in
too,
reasoning. Yeah.
which can be very difficult.
Yeah.
Very difficult.
There was very there was you could say a group of people that Jesus confronted very directly, and it was religious leaders.
Mm-hmm.
Because they had the religion, but they didn't have a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that's happening in our time too. It's like God is calling us out of this religious culture and into a relationship.
Yeah.
And some of it that doesn't allow us to go into that depth is pride. That goes into new depths with God. Because it's the same thing that happened with the Gentiles. The reason why they didn't, I mean the Jewish people, they didn't receive Jesus in the time because of pride.
Yeah.
But because of that pride, we were all blessed. Like,
Yeah.
if I know Paul says it. I forgot in which one of his letters, but he says, if the disgrace of the Jewish people was of a blessing to everyone, how much more their full restoration. So it's like God is saying, you guys are prideful, but I will lift you guys up.
Definitely.
And you guys will be my people again. But it's for everyone to be blessed.
I'm thinking that's Romans, maybe.
I think
I think Romans, he talks a lot about.
I was trying to look for it, but
but
yeah.
But going back to that story, it's like sort of the story in Romans was that in the city of Rome there was Gentiles, people that didn't belong to the Jewish nation or didn't belong in Israel. More so, we could almost, is it fair to say immigrants? I don't know. Maybe.
It depends where they were.
Maybe
geographically.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they weren't part of the nation of Israel as itself. They weren't born into a Jewish family. So they, if I'm not mistaken, one of the Caesars or one of the presidents, if we want to put it in our terms in today's time, they told Jewish people, go away, right? You have to leave. We can't be here anymore. But that president passed away, right? Or that Caesar passed away. And essentially, they go, well, the Jewish come back. But the Gentiles are still there. And they were having a real good relationship, right? But the Jewish people went back to Israel, right? From Rome. And obviously, they still had the traditions of being circumcised, not eating any pork. Which, if I'm not mistaken, I think they still do till today.
Yeah, they still
practice that till this day.
Yeah.
And there was just like a crash. Well, the Jewish Christians were saying like, "Hey, man, now you have to be like us if you want to be a true Christian. You know,
right,
you got to do what we do.
Yeah.
You know, but God's grace came to save all of us. Not so much because of what we do, but where our heart is. But
and pride's a big thing. I was seeing some verses, and one of the books that talks about it the most is Proverbs. Yeah, I was looking at verses from Proverbs, and I was like, wow.
I think I could have the same verses that you do.
Low key, because they're like Proverbs. I know 16 verses 18 and 19 talk about it.
Oh, never mind. I don't have them.
Also, chapter 11 verse 2. Proverbs 13:10.
Okay.
Those talk about 29. What was it? 29, 23.
Yep.
So here, I'll read the first one I said, 16, 18.
16, 18.
It says, pride goes before destruction. And it says haughtiness, which is also pride, before a fall.
Yeah.
And then Proverbs 11:2, pride leads to disgrace, but with humility comes wisdom. Proverbs 13:10, pride leads to conflict. Those who take advice are wise. And 29:23 says, pride ends in humiliation, while humility brings honor.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting because there's a Bible verse talking about honor that I forgot where it is. I'll look for it before we end the video.
I think because I don't know if it's directly mentioned in the Bible, but I've heard this before. Like, even honor your enemies or honor the people that you don't.
It's definitely Bible, yeah.
But it's like
honor.
But yet it comes like you come clashing in maybe like your own head saying like, dude, wait, but nah, dude, like how am I gonna honor like this guy, you know, or this person? Like, it comes down to pride, and I think we could almost link this to the last episode that we had with forgiveness. I think some of the times that we just honestly can't forgive, it is pride. It is saying like, well, I have the reason, or I'm the one who's right.
I remember I was telling you earlier, right, about the book of John Bevere. Which is a really good honor and
oh yeah, you were telling me
honor and reward. Yeah. That's what it's called. I told you a different title last time. Honor and reward, Honra y Recompensa in Spanish. And that book is really good. It taught me about humility in the aspect of honoring others, honoring those that we maybe aren't getting along with. So it would be like, all right, if you're not getting along with him, invite him out to eat.
Yeah.
And I can almost guarantee, I'm not saying that it was instantly, there were still some things, obviously,
Yeah.
but it was almost as if sitting down with him in the humility of, okay, I'm going to be here, I'm going to try to be a friend with him, would work.
Yeah.
And it would be like opening a door to a new relationship, a new friendship, even sometimes a brotherhood. And I think that's amazing, but that requires in letting go of your pride
Yeah.
and embracing humility. And it's tough, but Jesus did it. Jesus walked that way. And I know in Romans 12, because you were mentioning, were you talking about Romans 12?
Yeah, I did mention Romans.
Romans 12, there was a verse that I had seen in Romans 12. Romans 12:3. No, not 12:3.
12:16?
I think so. What does it
I have
say?
the same one. It says, by the way, the version of the Bible that, well, I love reading two versions in English. One is the Message, but the thing with the Message, if you look it up on the Bible app, the verses come all together. They're kind of like conjoined. But usually when I want to take my time on each verse, I usually read the New Living Translation.
Yeah.
But the verse goes like this: live in harmony with each other. Don't be too proud to enjoy the company of ordinary people. And don't think you know it all.
Oh, yeah, that verse is good. I was thinking about that one, and that one goes a lot with Philippians 2:3, which says, don't be selfish. Don't try to impress others. Be humble, thinking of others as better than yourselves.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key to losing pride, is not considering yourself better than others.
Yeah.
And but that's difficult, because it'll be like we'll say yes, we agree, like we'll do it, we'll live in humility. But then when a person who would, let's say for example, I know you're starting to play drums, right?
Yeah.
Let's say our boy Leo, who is learning.
Yeah.
Let's say you were like, bro, maybe we could do this fill into a song. And Leo's like, I'm the main drummer here.
Yeah.
You know? That's pride. But when he like considers you as an equal to him,
Yeah.
even if you aren't musically equal, but as a person he sees you as equally, he's like, okay, I'll listen to him.
Yeah.
And that requires humility and letting go of our pride. But yeah.
No, it does. I mean, it's definitely something that I think, as when we started, we all struggle with, you know.
Right.
I think within the church, I think there's been moments, even with myself, for people who aren't Christian, maybe I have come off as arrogant, maybe narcissist, which is definitely something that I know I do have to work on, especially on certain moments in time. It definitely especially where the place where I work at, when customers are sort of giving me maybe like an attitude, right? Maybe they're not.
Right.
Maybe they're having a tough day. I don't know why. They come in with
Yeah.
that attitude, but I've had encounters with people like, they walk big chested. It's like,
Of
okay,
course.
and there's this sort of this moment like, you know what? I'm gonna clap back. I'm gonna snap back, which I have, but like, and then after, like, once I get home, or like right at the end of like my shift, I'm like, why did I do that? I think pride can take you places that the Holy Spirit doesn't want you to be in.
Yeah.
And I don't want to go all the way to the opposite of the spectrum. Like, I think we should live in humility always. But yet, for example, there's these people that also are like, nah, well, I'm not worth anything, or this and that. Like, they talk too down on themselves,
Right.
At the same time. I think you should have a healthy relationship. If someone compliments you, right? If you're playing the piano, hey, dude, I just wanted, to come up and say, you did good on the piano. Oh, man, thank you, glory be to God. I think we have to acknowledge that we're good at stuff as well. You know what I mean? There's things that we should be proud of. But when you're putting yourself above others, I think that's when it becomes a little bit toxic. And that's when I think
Right.
that the Holy Spirit's sort of like, you know what? I'm going to take a step back
Yeah.
You know.
I try to watch out with compliments, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think you've noticed.
I think we
Yeah,
had this talk personally.
We've mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not that I don't like compliments. On the contrary, I like them. But I think it's dangerous for me and my pride. Like it's not that the person's intentions are bad or anything. It's just me and my personal relationship with my pride. Sometimes it's like I receive a compliment and I never forget. You remember Giovanni? The phrase that he would always tell me. He would tell me in Spanish, "Papa eres el 10," meaning like, "Oh, you're Messi," you know, you're for the drums. He would say, "Papa eres el 10." Pero humilde, papa. He would always tell me, "Pero humilde, papa." Like always reminding me. And I love that.
Yeah.
I love that because it was like, I'm complimenting you and you should be confident in your abilities, but not prideful.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference. Like, we should be confident in who we are, in our identity, but not prideful. Not. So it's like, I know who I am in God, but that does not make me superior to others.
No.
That just makes me identified.
Because I think at the same time, we didn't do anything to receive that title.
Right, of course.
We did not do anything to receive that title. So, even going back to the last episode that we had, we're like, if I start really thinking, like, oh, what did we really do if we're really going that deep? Like, what did we really do to reserve that title of being called a son of God?
Right.
Or God saying us, "Hey, I love you." What did we do? We did absolutely nothing. Because if we really do think about it, even when we were at our worst, when we were trying to push God away, maybe during a rebellious stage in our life, that's when God wanted to be with us. You know, so I think it is a bit hypocritical to be like, "Oh, you know what? I'm a son of God. Let me raise my hands during the worship. Let me be, loud, this and that." I'm not saying don't do it, but yet at the same time, with what intention are you trying to do it with? You know?
Right.
Are you trying to worship God, or are you trying to get the attention of the people? You know? So, I think to the people who are within the church, I think we said this in the first episode, we're just ordinary people, right? We thank God for the sacrifice that he did for us, for the grace that we have over our lives, and everything that we do have it's thanks to him. And I think being thankful will always be something that helps maybe calm pride down within us, to try not to like be maybe so obnoxious, maybe so egotistical, being thankful to God. But I think at one point, and I won't lie, I think I'm still working on this. I think I'm working on a lot of things within my just my inner stuff, not inner stuff. I don't know how to say it. Just like with stuff that maybe I still deal with, maybe like for example pride. I've noticed that I get like very bothered very quickly, or very annoyed very quickly, which maybe I'm like, oh, maybe maybe dial it down a bit. There's no reason for it. So stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I think being thankful is definitely something for me that I'm like, nah, dude, God, glory be to God that where I'm at, and for what I have.
Right.
And it definitely like if I wasn't for God, I think I wouldn't be here. So I think it's one of the things that I think just be thankful for good and bad.
Yeah, of course. And you guys can write it down like in the comments and everything, what you guys think, your thoughts on pride and humility, which is one that we have to leave and one that we have to receive. And I think when fighting pride, it's important to also understand humility, which maybe another day we do a topic on that.
Definitely.
But for me, humility is recognizing that everything comes from him, is for him, and by him. Like, there's nothing outside of God. There's nothing I could do successfully. Like, I can succeed, but there's no actually being successful when I do things outside of God. And I definitely encourage you guys to share what your guys' thoughts on this and in the comments. But yeah, it's something that's super difficult, super hard to work on. Yeah. Also because sometimes it's very subtle. Yeah. It can be very small. I remember I told you guys, and I shared with the youth, right?
Yeah, I think you were telling us this story when you were down in Mission. where I think it was one of the professors or teachers who came up to
Rafa
you
Keller.
and oh, was it Rafa?
Mhm.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was Rafa.
Saludos, Rafa, si es que llegas a ver esto, man.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, he told
yeah.
He told me that about the pride. He told me that he's like, you're a good person, and he was like affirming me, right? Which I think is the best biblical way of telling people when they're wrong.
Yeah.
But he was like affirming me. He's like telling me you're a good person, you're doing this good and everything. He's like, the only thing that I notice is that you have a fake humility, and I was like, dang. And he's like, that's pride, dude. Like, and he said it in a way like a fake humility that's visible. Like to everyone I appear like I'm humble, but he was right, because in my mind and in my heart, when someone would approach me that I didn't believe they were capable of either teaching me something or showing me something, I would listen to them respectfully. I would be watching them like if I was 100% into it, but in my head it was like, bro, why are you talking to me? Why are you telling
you're
me
probably
this?
like, dude, I'm not even gonna write this down in my head.
Like literally, I would be like, I guess in the exact moment thinking about the words going in and out of my ear, like literally. So once he did that, I felt so confronted, and convicted that would Jesus ever ignore me that way? And I was like, dang, I have to listen to people. I have to listen to their opinions, and even the people that I remember I mentioned this earlier, even the people that we might think can't teach us or can't show us something, they can.
They can.
And it might even be through mistakes. Like I'm watching a person and he's telling me, oh, you should do this, you should do that. And I don't see them doing it. It's not that I should judge them for not doing it. It's, okay, I got to do it. You know, it's like, it's not judging them for not doing it. It's judging me for not doing it.
Definitely.
And not in a judging, like disrespecting way, but in a way like, okay, hey, if they're not doing it and they're telling me that I should do it, ¿qué me cuesta?
Yeah.
What does it cost me?
Yeah. I mean, I think at the end of the day, I don't think when sort of people can come up to you like that, and you know that they could be going through something or doing something that isn't correct.
Right.
But if they're giving you advice that makes sense in a way, and I think I could correlate this with something that Paul said, like, well, some people are preaching for money, some people are preaching to be seen, but what's the point? The word is still being preached, though.
Right.
You know, like, whether it matters, like if they maybe what that advice that they give you, maybe they're not putting into practice, but
yeah,
the advice itself, is it good? Yeah,
it could be.
If it is, go ahead and take it.
Like they won't produce fruits.
Yeah,
but you can.
Yeah, you can.
So oh, and dude, that reminds me of something real quick. I don't know how we're on time, but
yeah,
I remember this was when I was in high school. I was having issues with a certain situation, and I remember I asked this one girl. I was like, "How do you do it when you're the one that's doing everything right?" She was an actor. Gotcha. Like she would do acting and everything, and the cast director or the directors or whatever are not giving you credit for what you're doing, and they're giving it to the others that aren't doing like what they should be. And she was like, at the end of the day, I'm gonna do what I have to do, because the director will eventually see what I'm doing, and I don't have to worry about what others are doing, because my job is to do my role. And I remember that confronted me so much, because it was like God telling me, leave your pride aside, do what you have to do, and I will observe. I'm the director, and I'll see you if you're doing your role correctly. Yeah. And I think that's a big thing. Like, you have to be in your role. You can't judge others for what they're doing wrong, but you can only correct yours. And you can help others, you can guide others. And that, but you got to be humble enough. If you want to teach, you got to be humble enough to learn.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have a couple of minutes
left.
So just to sort of condense everything down, and sort of bring it down to maybe like 2 or 3 tips. What would be something that maybe some tools that helped or are helping you maybe right now, or have helped you in certain cases before with pride?
Okay. I'll say 1 and 2. First one, prayer. It's always prayer. It's
I
identifying.
think that will always be our tip, guys.
Yeah.
For whatever topic we do touch, prayer is key.
Prayer is always gonna be like the biggest thing, because it's so important, and that's the key. Praying, identifying the issue and addressing it. You know, like it's like identify, address it, and we identify it through our relationship with God.
And I think the sooner the better as well.
Yes, because with God, when we pray and we ask God, okay, God, reveal all the things that are bad in my life, like He'll start showing it. It's like a microscope. When we do it, I'll identify. I'm like, oh yeah, I have pride. I need to fix it, but I won't be able to see the small particles. But when it's through God's lens, we can see every detail. And so it's identify it, address it to God, and also be submitted to God.
Be intentional.
Yeah, being super intentional. Like simple things like, if you don't like this person, invite them out to eat. If you're not really connecting with this person, tell them, hey, let's go have a coffee. Let's go enjoy a meal real quick or something, and things like that. And well, that's one of the things. The second tip that I've told you recently has been fasting. Fasting has helped me so much because it's like a way of having like a self-control, a discipline, and that also helps me with trying to be more humble. It's like it helps me reduce that other like level of pride. And a third tip that I could probably give is that what we were mentioning, being intentional. Like if you're actually invested in being more like Jesus, look at Jesus. We become what we observe.
And it won't be easy.
Yeah, that's a biblical lesson. With the people of Israel, when God addressed them once in the Old Testament, He called them like statues. He's like, "You are like statues," and He was addressing them based on what they were worshiping. But then there's like spiritual essence, like in Revelations, where the creatures are addressed as beings that are worshiping all the time, constantly. So I think we become what we see and observe. So the more we observe and we learn from Jesus, the more we become like Him.
Definitely.
But it is about being intentional.
Yeah, it's about being intentional.
I
think one thing is be thankful for everything.
Okay.
That's definitely for what you have, you know. Be thankful for the good and the bad. I think for everything you like, be thankful to God. For even the people that you don't get along with, be thankful for them. I think I heard this phrase once de Itiel Arroyo. Creo que cuando... Bueno, en español dice, si tienes a un Saúl frente de ti, es que probablemente tienes uno dentro de ti. Y tienes que tú tener que confrontar a ello para tú confrontarte a ti mismo. So, there's been instances in my own personal life where I see somebody that, for example, I don't like prideful people, right? I don't like people who maybe like could come off as a bit narcissistic.
Right.
But yet at the same time, I'm like, when I look and analyze my own heart, and I'm like, dang, bro, but you're going through like the same thing though.
Yeah, it's like
you know what I mean? So, that's one thing. What you were saying, I'll follow along to it. If you don't want to maybe invite them to go out, maybe shoot a text. I would recommend maybe even shooting a text.
Yeah, do something,
right?
It depends on your level of intentionality, to be honest.
That is as well. And I won't say walk in humbleness, but yet I would also recommend try to walk in an even balance. You know what I mean? If someone does give you a compliment, for example, like, hey, bro, you have some good shoes, or hey, man, you look good today, take it. You know?
Right.
Take it. Be thankful. I appreciate the thought of you, looking out for me, I guess. But yet at the same time, keep walking in humbleness. Keep walking, with your head or with your eyes focused on Jesus, and and it's hard. It's hard to deal with pride. It's hard to deal with ego. Especially when it comes to maybe certain situations or people that you might not get along with.
Right.
But that's all pretty much that comes to mind. And if you are going maybe to maybe could be a debate, maybe a moment of tension with that somebody that you could, bump heads with, ask the Holy Spirit to guide you.
Yeah.
Ask the Holy Spirit to guide you. Ask God to speak through you and just to give you the way how to approach it.
Yeah. And,
So-
and see them through His eyes.
That's
That's
too.
that would probably be my fourth tip, and my fourth and final thing that I'm gonna mention.
Mhm.
One of the biggest things that I experienced living with other guys was the fact that we're all weak and we all have mistakes and we all have sins. And being able to walk humbly required me to be able to see how the people were, how God is. And that was teaching me to love people not for who they are, but for who God made them to be and for who God says they are.
Yeah.
And they can be. It's like you can see the A. I've always been taught this. The A and the B. There's a person that is now the A, but B is where God is destining them. Yeah, and God's like, okay, they're this, there's that. And I think that's super important to be able to interact with people and break down our pride.
Yeah, but that's all we have for today, guys. We'll leave the Bible verses that we read in the description down below. But we love you guys.
That's a lot of
Stay
Bible
safe.
verses.
What was that?
That's a lot of Bible verses.
I think it was like 3 or 4.
I mentioned
It
like
was like
5.
3 or 4. It was like
Yeah.
3 or 4 Bible verses, and I think there's one. There's one in there. Let me see if I could find it real quick. If I can't, I'll add it down there in the description. But
Micah 6:8. Micah 6:8 is one of my favorite verses, which is do justice, love mercy, and walk
Wow.
humbly.
it was Proverbs 8:13. This is the last one, and we'll end it there.
All right.
It says, "All who fear the Lord will hate evil. Therefore, I hate pride and arrogance, corruption, and perverse speech." So, I think
Deep.
out of pride, I think arrogance derives, corruption derives, and perverse speech derives from pride. So, but I think that's all for today, guys. We love you guys. Stay safe. And God bless you guys, and we'll see you
Yeah.
guys soon. All right.
See you guys soon.